Lucifer lurks in the mind of a man.
So welcome back to another episode of Action Figure Prop Shop. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make miniature couches for your action figures. Okay, so I got my wood, and you can use balsa wood, you can use any kind of wood you want. You could probably even use cardboard if you want. I didn't use balsa wood because I didn't want to use my good balsa wood on this project, so I scrounged through my garage and I found some random wood. So these will be the pegs to hold up the couch. This is just a dowel rod that I cut these really sloppily. This is some random wood. This is just like a piece of 2x4. And so, got your basic frame for the couch. So I'm going to glue this together with hot glue. You can do it sloppily. You can put a bunch. It doesn't really matter because it's going to get covered up with fabric anyway. And so then I also have one for, this is going to be the couch, and this is going to be the kind of larger love seat kind of couch. And same thing, just a bunch of scrap wood. I cut these really sloppily. I didn't really even measure them. I kind of just cut them randomly because they're going to be covered in fabric, so you don't have to spend your time cutting them all nice. You can if you want, but I'm good. So alright, got my hot glue gun and start gluing it together. Alright, boom. So there's your base right there. And, you know, it looks pretty sketchy. But we're going to add the foam part to it and then the fabric. And then at the end, put the pegs on there. Now, I'm not making these specific to any action figure line. I'm actually doing these for a side project. But you always want to get your action figure you're scaling them to. So if I was using a Marvel Legend figure, you want to make sure that it's going to fit to scale. It's going to be tall enough for him. Remember, there's going to be cushions too, so you got to keep in mind that, you know, he's going to sit up a little bit more, and then the back's going to be right there. So this actually might be decent for a Marvel Legend figure. And like I said, I didn't really measure it. I just had the little reference picture I'm using. But remember, you got to keep in mind that there's going to be cushion and then a back cushion too. So by the time he's all cushioned out, this actually might be a good scale for a Marvel Legend. This would be a big love seat. So yeah, that might actually work. So I could probably use this for the little project I'm using it for, plus Marvel Legends. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, always, if you're going to do exact measurements, make sure you stick to your measurements. If you're using a figure for reference, make sure you keep checking and you keep into consideration everything that's going to go on. The cushions, the fabric, and everything like that. So now we need to put the padding on the couch. So you want the padding on there, that way it rounds out the armrest. You have the padding in the front and then on the top like a real couch. So best way you could do this is probably if you go to a craft store like Michael's, Hobby Lobby, an upholstery store, a fabric store, maybe even Home Depot, and they'll have the soft padding. But I'm doing these couches out of stuff that I have around my house and in my garage. So I use the scrap wood for the frame, and for the cushion, or the padding, I'm going to use these promotional beer cozies. So I just got these random beer cozies. I'm going to cut those up. And then these sleeves from an old jacket that I had. I cut the sleeves off. So this is the liner on the sleeves. So being a pack rat paid off because I kept these gross ass sleeves and now I get to use them for my couch. So I'm going to glue all this stuff on there, and then after that I could lay the fabric on and upholster the couch and then make the cushions. Okay, so I got everything cut that I need. So I got big couch. And so I got this nasty jacket liner, so that's going to run across the front and the back. And then the pads for the side. So this is from the beer cozy. I'm gonna wrap that bad boy and glue it like that. Leftover piece is gonna run across the front like that. So I'm gonna glue that on there on both, and so I'm gonna use the hot glue for the side pieces, but I want to leave this part flat as possible, so that's why I'm gonna use some tacky glue, turbo tacky glue to be exact. But I'm gonna use some tacky glue and smear it with this popsicle stick. That way, just to keep it flat, because with the hot glue you might feel the bumps, and it doesn't really matter, but I don't know, I'm gonna keep it flat. Okay, so I got the padding all set. Just gonna let this dry a little longer, let the tacky glue dry a little longer, and then I have this really cool fabric my friend Nick gave me. So shout out to Nick. Nick's one of my good friends. Hooked it up with this fabric, and this shit is perfect for a nice grungy, dirty ass couch. So let these dry. I'm gonna cut out my pattern, and then we're gonna glue this on top of there, and then all we have to do is the cushions, the pegs, and we're done. Alright, so I have the fabric on here, and I'm kind of just figuring out how to cut it. This is where I'm going to use hot glue again. And I don't have a specific pattern, I'm kind of just winging it. I'm just kind of like folding it over and seeing what parts I should cut and everything like that. So I don't really have any rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. I'm kind of just cutting and gluing. So for the cushions, I scrounged up some more stuff. So like I said, I'm trying to make these couches out of just random shit I have lying around. Well, I have this foam, just random foam. I think this is packed in with maybe like a TV or an appliance or furniture or something. I randomly found this stuff a while back, and I've been sitting on it. I have a whole bunch of it. So it's actually 3 layers glued together. So I'm going to actually just separate the layers and use those for the cushions. And so since this is foam, you can't apply hot glue to it because it's going to melt it, obviously. I got a comic book board. Now this is just a board from like a comic I found either at the thrift store or the dollar bins or whatever. I usually bag and board them myself instead of having the old bag and board from the previous owner. Usually because the boards usually are all fucked up. Anyway, I always keep these because why not, right? So I'm going to glue the piece to this so that way we can hit it with the hot glue. And then, of course, you know, we're using the same fabric. So I already jumped ahead a little. So here I got a little piece of foam. I sliced it to the right size. I have the comic board glued on there already. And this is butt right. So that's for this one right here. It's going to go right here. I already cut this little spot out. Now this was kind of tricky. Like I said, it's pretty much just trial and error how you're going to do it. And then that, and then I got the back. So now I just got to glue all these together, do the pegs, and we're done. So I finished all my cushions. I glued them all down with hot glue, and I cut all the loose strings off, and I also labeled them so I know where they go. So these ones go for the love seat, this one's the back, this one's the butt, this one's left, back, left butt, right back, right butt. So cool, got all my cushions down. And then I also made these little pillows too. So these are actual pillow props that came with these charmed figures by Soda. So these Soda charmed figures, and they were purple and just like a solid plastic. So I got an old ratty t-shirt and I cut a little pattern similar to what I did with the cushions, like the similar pattern cut, and then I just hot glued it on there. So if I want, I could peel it off because, you know, hot glue's not permanent. But I definitely got some cool little cushions for the couch now. So this is actually in the Nug Nest. If you guys haven't watched Crispy Boys episode 1, go ahead and check that out. And then also, if you can't tell, I did dirty up the couch a little bit. So what I used is pigment. I used powdered pigment in a brush, and I brushed it all on there to give it kind of a dirty, grungy look. Because I wanted to add some age and some weather to it, make it look a little more scummy. So if you guys are unfamiliar with powdered pigment, basically what I use is like, this is just some type of makeup, like powdered makeup. Make sure it doesn't have glitter. There is some of these that have like glitter or that's kind of like glossy. You just want the straight powdered pigment. So Michael Wisman, shout out to Michael Wisman, my good friend. He was talking about using powdered pigment for painting action figures and weathering dioramas and stuff. So I was talking to my wife about it. She had this like makeup palette thing. She just gave it to me, so I just used the black, the brown, and the green. And what you do is, you know, just get some on your brush, just kind of brush it on there. And it's a lot more forgiving than paint, like trying to dry brush, especially for something like the couches. And I've used this on dioramas before, and I've used it on headcasts before. And I really like the technique. Like I said, it's really forgiving, and I think it adds a really cool layer and detail that you don't really get, or you can't get from paint or airbrush. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Action Figure Prop Shop. Check out some of my other videos. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is punker_Mike. And we'll see you next time. Somebody's mowing their lawn. I gotta close my window.